A lot of people currently think that this bull market cycle is over, and to be fair, there are a ton of similarities between 2021 and this cycle. However, in today's video, I'll be talking about how 1, I don't think that this cycle is over, and 2, how we can properly identify with a reasonable amount of certainty whether or not the cycle has topped. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. All right, as per usual, kicking us off with the lower time frames for Bitcoin. Now, you can see that there is indeed a shift in the market here. We've been printing lower high after lower high after lower high, and in yesterday's video, I talked about how this structure finally broke because we did go ahead and tap into this lower high. As you can see, we wicked all the way up to around 113.4K. Now, I was actually planning a cheeky short around 113.5. However, we did not manage to enter. Right now, though, on the longer time frame, Bitcoin still looks as healthy as ever. And in today's video, I wanted to talk about how we haven't topped and how I will be identifying that top. You can see right now that we are currently consolidating between two significant all-time highs. These two turquoise lines, the top one being $112,000, which was a previous all-time high that we got all the way back in May of this year. And then we also have the inauguration all-time high, which was set back in January of this year. Now, consolidation here is perfectly fine in my opinion. As long as we stay above 109.4K, I still think that we could be seeing some more upside in the market, especially when we take a look at the liquidity maps. Now, a lot of people after this rejection have already started talking about how it's just another fail to make a high and we will be moving much, much lower. Look, I still think that yes, Bitcoin may go ahead and retest these levels once again, actually below $107,000. However, when we get a change like this, it does tell us that there is a new shift in the market, and eventually, whether or not we consolidate here, we will likely be moving higher. The bull market is not over. Now let's get into the meat of the video, which is what you guys really came for. How do we know when the bull market is over? Now, I want to show you this weekly time frame for Bitcoin, and you can see that I outlined a lot of key levels. As I zoom out here, it'll start to paint a relatively clear picture. So you can see that we're going to be comparing moving averages with the prior cycle tops. Now, if you've been watching the channel for a while, you know that we already talked about this, but I do think that this is good to refresh your memory on because this will tell us with a reasonable amount of certainty whether or not the cycle has topped. So we kick us off with 2011. We set that all-time high, and then we start calculating the 200-week moving average. We go to the next cycle in November of 2013, which was the top of the 2013 bull market cycle. What do you notice here? This white line, the 200-week moving average, crossed above the previous all-time high, which was set in 2011. This will repeat itself over the years. Taking a look at the 2017 top, what do you notice? Once again, this white line, the 200-week moving average, crossed above this all-time high, which was set in 2013. So every single time that the 200-week moving average crosses above the previous all-time high from that last cycle, that is when we can confirm with a reasonable amount of certainty that the bull market is over. And we can see the same exact thing happened in 2021. We set that all-time high here, and as you'll notice, we have this white line which ended up crossing above the previous all-time high, which was set in 2017. Now, if I zoom in here, you'll notice that in 2021, it wasn't 100% accurate. You had to wait a little bit longer, and Bitcoin was already around $55,000 by the time that this crossed. But what this tells us is that when the 200-week moving average starts to get close to the previous all-time high set from that last cycle, that is when you should start considering selling your crypto. Now, I want to show you this once more as it pertains to this cycle. You can see that we are nowhere near that all-time high, which was set around $69,000 from the past cycle. And so, as this continues to trickle on up, I still don't think that the bull market top is in. And if you want to get a little bit more granular here, as I zoom in here, another important metric that I will be keeping my eyes on to tell me whether or not the cycle has topped will be this green line over here, which is the 50-week moving average. Now, why is this important? Well, you can see that whenever Bitcoin loses the bull market support band, which we actually lost it several times in this cycle, we tend to find support right around the 50-week moving average. So this is a perfect example as to what you want to see happen if we do move below there. That's why on the channel in most recent times, I did say that if we start to lose the bull market support band, the next major area of support would be this green line, which currently is below $100,000. I know that might seem drastic, but if we eventually break below this and we hold here as support, this could actually fuel us for the final leg of this bull market cycle. And so to put it quite simply, this is why I don't think that the bull market top is in. Now, I also wanted to talk about the similarities between 2021 because I'm seeing a lot of charts like this on Twitter. This guy says, bros, and as you can see, we made kind of a double top, and it now looks like we're in a consolidation zone below a moving average before we end up entering into the bear market. Personally, I don't think that the bull market top is in, regardless of what this chart says. You can see that in 2021, we just had two massive wicks to the upside, failing to make brand new highs. But in our case here, if you zoom in here, we had a very, very strong green candle to the upside before wicking and reversing. But I really don't think that this is a repeat of 2021. A lot of people have been posting these charts. Now, I wanted to also guide you through Bitcoin dominance because this can tell us when the cycle top is also in, because typically, as we know, Bitcoin dominance peaks, Bitcoin peaks, and then we have a massive altcoin season. And I know a lot of you are starting to lose faith in an altcoin season. For me personally, I have not been the type of channel telling you that alt season is imminent. Actually, quite the contrary. I've been talking about literally just holding Bitcoin and Ethereum, as you've probably come to realize. However, I do think that we will have some form of altcoin season. Now, it won't be the altcoin season where every single alt just explodes to the upside. But what I do think will happen is that a lot of select altcoins will greatly outperform together. Now, it won't be all of these shitters that are launching on Pump Fund or these kinds of tokens, but there will likely be a lot of euphoria, and I think that this is the period in time where most people will get caught out. But for now, what I want to show you is that we are still holding on to this trend line for Bitcoin dominance, and my base case is that we will continue to go higher, as I've been very vocal about on the channel. So this is something that you definitely want to consider. This is not altcoin season. This was not altcoin season, but this is altcoin season, when Bitcoin dominance really drops. And the healthiest thing for this market, in my opinion, is for Bitcoin to eventually make a brand new all-time high, maybe somewhere between 130 to 150K, which has been my base case for this entire bull market cycle. And then we finally get a true altcoin season. If this was the top, then yes, altcoin season should be starting right now, but I am still not convinced that this was the top of this bull market cycle. It may seem simple, but I will be using these indicators to tell me whether or not the bull market top is approaching. And so as soon as this line down here, the 200-week moving average, starts getting closer and closer to that 69K top that we made in the previous cycle, that is the point in time where we'll start to get a little bit cautious. Give or take a few $1,000s, because as we saw in the last cycle, it wasn't perfectly accurate, but as soon as this line starts to get to around, say, $60,000 to $65,000, it's at that point in time where we'll start to get quite cautious about where we are in the bull market cycle. Right now, you can see that we're currently sitting at around $52,000, so there's no cause for concern quite yet. And yes, we still have time for a reasonable altcoin season at the end of this bull market. And that covers today's very quick video. That's all I wanted to go over. A very simple metric telling you when we are approaching the bull market top. As soon as that 200-week moving average crosses the all-time high of the previous cycle, that's when you want to get worried. But we saw that it is ever so slightly delayed. And so as soon as we start to get relatively close to that 69K top, which was set in 2021, that is when I will likely be selling a significant portion of my Bitcoin bag in preparation for an altcoin season, and then the market is over. As always, we have all of the links in the description down below. If you want to join my free premium Telegram community where I share my exact trade setups in this market, you have that first link in my description down below, and all of the exchanges below that one. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. I hope you all have a lovely weekend, and I will see you in the next video.